everybody doing? Happy Wednesday. Hump day.
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Hump day.
Chris, where
Hey,
am I?
Mike. Mike.
Yeah,
Mike,
Mike
what
check.
day is it, Mike? Mike, what day is it, Mike?
It is Humpy Day.
Jeez, did anybody? It's just all going over everybody's heads. Did anybody remember the commercial, the Geico commercial with the camel? Right?
Oh,
I thought you were talking about.
What day is
I thought
it,
you were
Mike?
talking about.
Oh,
I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about the Kicks commercial where Mikey likes it.
what?
Remember that
No.
one? Oh, that was before Austin's time.
We all already know what Mikey likes.
I don't know.
where are you gonna go with this? Where are you taking it? Hey, Chris, do you
Good
recognize where I'm at?
Huh?
Do you recognize where I'm at?
Oh, it's the friend set.
Central Perk.
Central Perk.
Central Perk, yeah.
I asked him about Gunther, and he had no idea who Gunther was. It was like it took him.
You know where I thought
Took
you
him a
were?
long moment.
I thought you were at the bar in the Shining movie. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite. Well, probably one of my
Gotta do that, look.
top horror movies of all time.
Same, yeah.
I
Classic.
love that movie. Hey, buddy. Come here. All right, so we are live.
Oh, are we live?
Milo yeah, we are. Milo wants to join us.
Hey, baby girl.
He did? Yeah. Oh gosh.
So let me ask you guys this. Let's start off with the questioning, Mike and Chris. Have you guys had a chance to watch any of it yet?
The clips online. The clips that I guess trailers. Those pieces I've seen. I didn't.
All right,
watch
hey, y'all
those.
talk real quick. Apparently Milo just threw up in my little girl's room. I'll be right back. Let me clean that up real quick.
You want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, I know I sent you guys the link to the first one. I just didn't know if you guys had a chance to watch the other ones yet. But man, the whole thing was crazy. The whole time, the whole episodes. Can you guys recall much of it?
We were talking about that earlier. It's kind of hard. It kind of is a little bit blurry for me. Like I was talking to Mike earlier, I was like, I'm trying to remember back when we filmed, and a lot of it is kind of a blur, which is kind of weird because it was so vivid at the time.
Yeah.
I think Mike, you had kind of the same feeling.
I mean, I recall the going under the first time. I remember, if this makes sense, I remember not remembering what I experienced, but just remembered it being a little bit more intense. And I remember one of the times, like, kind of childhood flashback things, but again, nothing that was scary, evil, whatever you want to call it. But the whole thing was definitely different, but it's almost like, I don't want to say lost time, but like a blur. I think from when we left Bryan, it was kind of like, we didn't even talk about it a lot in the car. I remember driving back, we didn't even really talk about it a lot, which is strange. Usually when we leave any location every week, we're talking about it. We're talking about people.
Just trying to like comprehend what you guys just went through.
It was kind of more quiet.
Or like wrap your mind around it.
Well, Brandon was asleep the whole time.
Well, on my way back, I started my recorder in the truck, and of course I knew I was going to have to travel that day, stay in a hotel, and finish the rest of my trip the next day. So I just started my recorder and I started talking to make all my notes, as the curator of these experiments. And then when I got back here, I used those notes to try to turn them into, an audio that I turned the audio into a text, and then I printed it all out so I could keep rereading what I wanted to. It was either I needed to remind myself of something, because in my head, after all those days we were there, I was like, I need to get this down so that I can remember it. know, for me, that was very important because that's my job. And I knew, just like y'all, if I went too long without getting this all down somehow, and I'm in this truck all by myself for the next 2 days anyway, I might as well just get it all down. And now I'm going to have it. So I've had to go back to a lot of that myself.
It's kind of like keeping a dream journal, so it's fresh.
Yeah.
I have. Well, and plus, like we watch. The only reason I even can remember any of it is because of the episode. Like if I didn't have those, like I would have no recollection of anything that happened. Like there a few moments would kind of like stand out. Like I remember like Mike's that's reverse. Mike's episode, like in the first well, like his like the reaction he had to the WorldGate opening up in like the first episode or second episode, right?
Yeah.
Um,
His episode within the episode.
He was either going to puke or piss.
Yeah, I think that's a good place we should start, actually, Mike. If you want to kind of talk about, do you remember any of that?
Yeah, like I said, I it's hard to put because it's like I don't remember details of it. I do remember
Right.
now that us talking about it, things coming back. Like
But like, do you remember how you felt? Do you remember like maybe
No, I
like
never kinda
anything in the moment?
either hearing or feeling. Like, I mean, I know we had headphones on, so I don't know if it was a hearing it or a feeling it, but like a crash, a bang, something loud, something boom, boom, boom. And then it was like, that kind of felt like almost like, I mean, I don't think I was jarred awake. I don't know. I wasn't watching myself, but I mean, almost like you ever do that when you wake up and you're like, what
Like
was
when
that
you're
about?
falling?
Yeah,
You dream
and it's
when you're
like,
falling or
I don't remember
something?
what it
Yeah.
was. You just wake up, and I remember it just being like that. And then I was like, obviously, it's still going on because I got up and when I took the blindfold off, and I think it was Steve. I think he was the first one I saw. I think
It was.
that part I can't remember.
Mhm. Yeah.
The first one I saw, and I still see people laying down. So I'm like, this is still going on. I feel like I'm
Right.
jumping too early, but it's like it was still going on. And I don't even know how long it was because I remember we went outside and I came back in and laid back down to just kind of, I guess, not make anybody else aware of it.
Yes,
didn't
I
seem like
want to tell the viewers because it's not really explained in the episodes. For the viewers, Mike had this episode that happened, and I did not want to contaminate because my biggest thing is protocols with my other participants. So I was like, we need to get Mike back in the building and back in his cot to where when everyone else comes back, they don't realize anything happened. And if they collaborate anything with Mike, we know it's because they didn't see Mike out of his cot. It's like sneaking back in the house after you've snuck out to go to the bar,
Yeah.
or run to the park with your girlfriend. I was like, okay, we got to get him back in the bed, and then they will never know until later. And what you were saying a
Right.
moment ago, Austin, during these edits with Billy. Now, Billy is the editor, and he's amazing at it. But I do get to go through each one of these episodes for final edits and put my 2 cents worth in for whatever it's worth. But as I'm rewatching these, I'm seeing stuff that I did not get to see while I was there because I was doing the experiments. So there was so much that happened outside of my vision and outside of my hearing I didn't know about. I absolutely love watching the series because I was all of a sudden putting even more pieces together that I didn't remember, or it's because I hadn't experienced it because it was out of my earshot and out of my eye shot.
So yeah, so there were after the fact, a lot of connections that were made that you don't see in the moment, which I think is really cool.
We just found another one last night.
Yeah, it kind of validates a lot of stuff. I mean,
What did we find last night?
he's talking about the flag. But
Oh, that's right.
And he happened to that was some B-roll. And Billy, you could probably explain it better than I can, but during what Billy was, who was it? No, it was Austin explaining something. Was it Austin or was it?
I think it was Austin. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
something.
Maybe it was. Which we didn't delve into this into the series, but I think you were talking about how Jay had been messed with earlier, like a couple years earlier, and it was over in the corner of the granary, and I just happened to cut to a B-roll shot of the flag, which is in the corner of the granary, which is what he's talking about.
But Billy really didn't know what corner it was during the. It was kind of another one of those coincidences. Billy really didn't know exactly where it happened, and in the episode, that happened to be the part of the B-roll he cut to, which was that American flag, which just happened to be in the corner where that sumbitch got a hold of me in that chair that day. So It was just another one of those coincidences that we didn't catch till last night. I'm like, holy crap.
Well, like I was saying earlier, there's a bunch of them that I think if you really go, and when I go and shoot these paranormal investigations, even though this wasn't really your typical paranormal investigation, man, like I'm so peculiar and I'm such a perfectionist, and I'm like, and I never think that what I shot right after I shot it, and with the investigations, the interviews, the story of the location, yada yada, I never think it's good enough, and then it always ends up turning out way better when I go into post-production and I kind of put it together, and then all these pieces of the puzzle start kind of matching up, and it turns into a really cool project. But going back to Mike and his incident where he left the cot, Mike, I'm sure you saw the teasers and the trailers and all that stuff where your eyes got really like sunburnt. It was like a cold sunburn. And which was really
space
bizarre.
got hot later that
night,
right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. And then you go and do the paranormal investigation, and Mike is literally standing feet, like within 2 feet of where he was in the center during the experience. And during the night in the paranormal investigation, the same thing starts happening with your eyes. So it's like, man, I don't know. How do you explain that? I don't know if there is an explanation for that.
I mean, for me to explain that, I have no idea. I mean, that was probably my, what do you say, Austin? Maybe the third to fourth time at the Granary. And there's always been something.
That's never happened. Like when you got hot like that.
No, I never got hot like that. But there's always been something. There's always been that creep feel, that eerie thing that something's not right in that place. But still go in like happy and go lucky. It's like it's going to be a cool investigation, but there's always something about it, So I mean, I don't know. There's always we always talk about that too. It's like there's something. Do these spirits remember us? Do they recognize us from being there before? And I know Chris has been there before. I don't know about the other participants if that was their first time there.
For the most of them, yeah. Chris had one instance. I wanted to ask him about that. The hand, because he said he saw this hand multiple times throughout the experiment. Because you were in like every experiment, weren't you? Weren't you two in every experiment?
They both were. They were the only ones that were.
That hand would come in,
You saw it on multiple occasions, right?
Yeah, no, and for me, it was a little different. Like, I'm a very visual kind of guy. I just kept getting these flashes of different images, and I couldn't tell if it was just my imagination or if it was actually like whatever was inhabiting the building, like messing with me or trying to show me something and lead me or guide me to somewhere. But I definitely kept seeing this hand. It looked like this grotesque kind of demonic hand that just kept coming in there every now and then, almost like turning the page in my mind, if you will, to different visual things that I would kind of draw. Like I drew several drawings because that's kind of how my mind works. And it's just better for me to try to draw it out than to write it down.
One of the things that you drew too, sorry, JW, one of the things that you did draw too was almost like this, like what, it was like a jewelry box type thing, or that's a bad term to use, but it was something like that, right?
No,
Did we
yeah,
ever figure out the significance of that
It
thing?
was the Ferris or not the Ferris wheel. What's
The carousel?
merry-go-round. Carousel. Yeah.
Merry-go-round. Okay, yeah. The drawing, it kind of just looked like a hexagon box thing in the hand, like reaching into it. So I didn't know did we ever figure out anything with that?
No.
Well, it coincided with some of the stuff that we got from Salo Stanley. We did find a correlation there with that gift that she had mailed to you months before, and you gave it to me there. We did find a correlation with that one, but I don't know.
Yeah, that was just the question.
It did kind of correlate with the Ferris or the what do they call that? Not a Ferris wheel.
A carousel?
The merry-go-round.
Yes.
I was just thinking about that earlier, like, because I was thinking about the drawings, and I thought, oh yeah, this little hexagonal box type thing. And I forgot about that.
It almost had like cogs and gears and stuff inside of it. Like I said, once like those tones would start with me, there were a few of them that were almost like unbearable, like not to the point where I had to get up and leave, but some of them really bothered me. But then I would get into like this state of just, I don't know, calm, or like I would kind of drift off. And like I said, I was somewhere in between like dream and being awake, and I would just have this flood of visualizations. And like I said, the only way I could describe them best is just to draw them. So
yeah, you actually did mention that in this last episode, episode 6. JW, is that what you were going to talk about? Yeah. Yeah, you go ahead.
You did not think, you said in the interview, in the after interview, the exit interview, that you didn't think it was going to go anywhere because those tones were not, sometimes y'all call it music, but they're basically frequencies.
It was irritating.
Like those frequencies were not going to allow you to do anything. And within a matter of minutes, you were all of a sudden experiencing something. And then, the child crying, the baby.
So JW, I got a question about that, about the Hyperrealm Experiment 4, because a lot of the participants ended up down in the basement, and you were asking them specific questions. Did you come to the basement? Was there something in your audio that said something about going to the basement?
No.
Okay. Because there was I think all of them almost said something about going to the basement.
I felt that there was something to do with the basement. There's no subliminal anything in my audio. There's nothing there.
Yeah, Mike had an experience.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like now things are coming back. And when I was saying earlier, like possibly can spirits recognize you from being there 1, 2, 3, or multiple times or whatever? But I remember we did get that EVP in the basement where it called my name before I even asked who it was.
Yeah, I mean, well, Mike, here's the thing. If you'd have watched all the episodes, you would have known what had happened.
Yeah, because that's like episode 3.
No, that was actually episode 5. Here, let's watch this teaser. Let me play this teaser real quick for episode 6, and then we'll talk more of that, because actually what Mike just said, I think that's it.
We're going to do some Hyperrealm projects, which is you're going to be able to go and investigate on the other side, and then you're going to come back and you're going to have a story to tell.
I'm kind of excited that it's getting changed up a little bit. It's going to be another challenge for me just to see what I can do.
Project WorldGate Experiment 4 will commence in 10.
So how do we feel, JW?
Like I always feel at the beginning one of these, nervous.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't look like Tinkerbell. It was just this ball of light. It was fast, and it would take the baby's souls.
I started moving towards that far right corner, where the baby crying was coming from, or where I thought it was coming from, and there came that hand again. And then I immediately, I jerked up. I knew immediately. It was like I woke up.
I was just seeing just hundreds of people. Then I heard that it was time to go back.
Now we are back in our body again.
Really want to talk about what we just did with the hyper realm, because we had some very significant correlations.
After this afternoon, I'm a believer in this. There's something to it.
I think it's worth it, but I know that y'all are some great people. And thank you so much. It is truly appreciated.
Yeah, so where it called your name, Mike, that was actually episode 5. They all kind of run together. That was the last paranormal investigation. But yeah, I mean, it said your name.
What was it, Chris? I know Chris was it you that went down to the basement and saw Pat?
He did, and he saw a 20-gauge shotgun in the corner too, and some other stuff, and the babies too.
Was that creepy, dude? I can't. That would be creepy, looking over and seeing Pat.
Pat, and we know Pat. He's not the kind of guy, I don't think, anyway, that would be in that type of situation. So it was very strange, and I was very curious to see if we kind of met in that situation, but I don't guess we did.
The way that you the way that you reacted in the exit interviews, you said, "Oh, well, Pat's having a good time." But in my mind, I was like, watching it, I was like, "Damn, if I saw Pat telling me that, I might be shitting my pants or something."
Yeah, that hyper realm for sure was definitely different. I guess it was because of JW's audio or what. Because
it's a completely different experiment. I use different frequencies.
Yeah.
It's a completely different experiment to try to keep them local. It's hard to explain without boring the shit out of everybody.
Yep.
With how I do the frequencies, but it's really meant to keep them into the local realms. Now, there's nothing I can do if they want to stretch their tether and fly far away. But this audio is really meant to keep them into the local realm and just investigate, instead of sitting in there with a REM pod and a flashlight, to let you go to the other side just for a moment and see what's over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to episode 5, I was going to say, talking about lost time, Mike felt like the experiment, which was, I think, 46 minutes, ended up, he thought it was only about 10 minutes. And he was very confused when he woke up too, Mike. I don't know if that was the second time you were in the middle.
Well, he thought I ended it early.
Yeah. And he didn't see much either. He just kind of saw black and stuff. It's probably what I would have seen too. But do you remember that, Mike?
I remember now that you're saying it. I remember saying that. I don't remember the situation, but I do remember now that you're bringing that back up that, yeah, it just seemed quick. So maybe I don't think I fell asleep, but it was something with that it was just black, nothing vivid. But yeah, I do remember now saying oh, he's cutting it short. Or cut it early. Maybe we're gonna have to restart for some reason. Maybe something went down. I'm automatically thinking there's an issue in the home base kind of thing. Something's going down there, so they're gonna restart. And I was like, nah, it's over. It's like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, you had a roller coaster, Mike. Your first experiment, you got taken out. Then you had a really good experience.
Well, it's like it's like, again, weekly we see people, and recently there's been a good handful of people like, I want to do this, I want to try this. So what's it like? And we say the same thing. It's hard to remember everything, but I also remember when we were interviewing Jay that, not that in any way doubted you or doubted the work being done. I doubted me in the situation. I doubted myself, going I'm considering it like being hypnotized, and it's like, yeah, I see it, I hear about it, it ain't gonna happen to me. I'm gonna go along with it. I'm gonna play ball and give it my best shot, basically, but it ain't gonna happen to me. I believe in its work. I don't believe me being a part of this. And then It's
Dude,
true.
the way you said all that, Mike, I'm the same. I would have said the exact same stuff you said. I would have been like, man, I'm just gonna fall asleep and I wake up and this and that, and everything you said, I can, for me, 100% relate. I felt like it may not have had any effect on me. But then here's the weird thing. When I was editing it, and I told these guys a couple of lives ago, when I started listening to that, I didn't listen to all the audio. I would only play like a minute of the audio that he was pumping through you guys, and then I was watching his video that he had attached with it, which you guys didn't see that. One time it almost made me throw up. I'm like, why is this almost making me throw up? It's really weird.
It's almost like infrasound. We've used infrasound at Ghost Asylum in different episodes and different experiments, and infrasound can do the same thing to you. But I was just gonna add on to what Mike was talking about. It really is like keeping a dream journal, which I think it's very important when you're doing this experiment to write everything down when it's fresh as soon as you wake up, because just like a dream, you'll forget it. Like, I mean, it'll leave you very quickly. So as soon as you get up and you start writing things down, because like right now we're talking about it, but I don't remember a lot of the things that I saw, just because it's so important to write it down when it's fresh in your mind, when you first experience it.
And that's why I give everybody a pen and a tablet when you first get there and say, look, this is your notebook. This is your pen. Do with it what you want. But as soon as you wake up, while you're waiting, and I'm sorry, guys, I know it's a pisser having to wait on those exit interviews. And poor Chris, you had to wait several times because it takes a while to get through some of these exit interviews. But I just felt the protocols were very necessary. But that's why I gave you the pen and paper, so that you can write it all down. You can pass some of the time, yes, but also you can keep, like you're saying, the dream journal. You can write it down while it's fresh.
Steve was the worst.
Scott,
Steve. Double S.
That's what Brandon could have gotten.
But here's the thing about those interviews and and this goes back to what Austin was saying earlier. Man, whatever, we did 4 experiments, 6 participants, so that's like 24 interviews. Honestly, as I was going through stuff, I didn't even remember. I remember Scott Steve had the very long thing, but other than that, I didn't remember specifics of any of those interviews until I got into it and started going through the edit and all that stuff. So it's really easy as a human being to forget something which was such a short time ago. It was like less than 6 months ago. So
yeah. And I do want to say, Billy, you did amazing with the editing on trying to give a visualization to these exit interviews. I thought that you hit so many of them, just hit the nail right on the head with some of that.
Don't thank me. Thanks.
What these people were experiencing, and they were trying to tell us,
Yeah,
and hard. It's hard to tell what you've seen in your head and make another person visualize it.
Well, like I think what Chris was saying earlier, like I'm such a visual person, man. It's like I can read something on paper and automatically I can just kind of see it in my head, and that's just the way I am. So when I took on this project, which I've said this to you guys before, but it was like it's kind of a catch-22. I knew it was going to be different. I knew it was going to be different from what I did because I'm used to being able to control the B-roll and even doing, recreations and whatnot for flashbacks and stuff to match up what the interviews were. But with this,
let some dumbass in a cowboy hat lead it all.
Well, with this, it was such a different dynamic, and I've said this multiple times before. I mean, it's not like we can put a camera in someone's brain and just actually see what they're seeing and stuff. So, and obviously we didn't have the budget to do whatever kind of recreations or visualizations with the visions and the dreams that everyone was seeing. So thank God for stock video. If it weren't for that, it'd be a bunch of talking heads up there, and we'd only have 8 people versus the 11 people that's watched the series at this point.
Hey,
I
we
mean,
got
I'm sure
30,
it's-
we got 30 just last night in like an hour and a half or so. So let's
You gotta be a
take
tough
some
kid, though, man.
credit.
It's like you're acting like a sketch artist. You know, you gotta not just edit down what was filmed or what you filmed. You know, but it's like you're just saying, it's like you gotta take somebody's description,
Yeah.
and try to make it match something. Which,
well, not only that, you have. I mean, listen. So Steve's interview was like 35 minutes, and it's like, man, like. You have to you have to no lie, it was. You have to cut that down into something.
There ain't no stock video to cover all that.
Your thinking has to be a couple different ways. It's like, man, if I was watching this, would I be interested in it, or is this going to get really boring to somebody watching it? So there's a different way of thinking, and you have to try to keep the flow going. There's a lot of different variables too, because music kind of carries stuff, but it can only carry you so far. So it was a tricky dynamic.
Like time
trying to
travel.
put this together.
So yeah, like when you're watching Steve's interview and you're in Motion Array or whatever, what do you even type in for like? Let me see if I can get some visuals to try and explain Steve's.
Well, I don't even mess with Motion Array video wise. Now, music wise, Motion Array is great, but video,
whatever you use,
blocks, man, story blocks. So video blocks, story blocks. I have one other website that I use. Motion Array's video sucks, but
you type in like time travel pyramids or.
I do, yeah. So if he's talking about going to see a pyramid, believe it or not, man, there's tons of pyramid video, and then I just put it in and I manipulate it with my color correction software, and I put some movement to it, and I put some effects to it, and then if he's talking about a vault, then I go and find a vault and then manipulate it. When you were talking about a merry-go-round, I went and found stock video of a merry-go-round and put it in there, and it gives the viewer a visual of kind of what you're describing to help move the story along, because I mean, I don't want to bore anyone. I'm sure they are bored with most of the stuff that I put out, but I try not to. So
I don't think, of course, this is my baby, so I don't think it's boring at all.
Yeah, but, of course you don't.
Of course I don't. I love all this shit.
Well, I mean,
I knew it was going to be a challenge for you.
Yeah.
To be able to bring what they experienced and bring it to film. But man, you did a great job. And I guess Mike just went and got a coffee. I don't know.
He at Central Perk. So here's the thing with me. Like I said, I'm a very visual person, man, and it's kind of it's tough because I get frustrated because I'm like, man, like if I could do the recreations, or if I could do these reenactments for this, and I know what I could produce if I had the the means, finances, and resources to do it, and the time too. But with my projects, I move so fast too. It's just like, I'm not going to sit on something and just wait for 2 years for it to come back. So, but with this, I knew that was going to happen. That's why I tried to shoot a lot of B-roll. I tried to, get a lot of cutaway shots and stuff. And then I knew that stock video, unfortunately, I mean, not a huge fan of stock video, but I knew that it was going to play a big part in this. So I think
with the budget we had, it's what we had to work with to bring this across to the public. And this is the first time that I've been able to go out there and film this, what it is that we do at the Institute, thanks to all of you guys, and then bring it to the public in such a way that it's win, lose, or draw. This is no fucking around. This is what we did, and either they're going to really, really like it, or they're going to really, really hate it. Either way, we're going to know. I mean, and right now we're seeing that a lot of people like it.
Yeah. Chris was gonna say something, but JW and I forgot.
What were you
gonna say?
I don't even remember now.
Oh.
I think I was talking about you, Billy. You were talking about editing and like trying to relate it or translate it in a visual way, and it's tough, man, when you're editing, because I do some editing myself on a way more amateur level. You know, I've just started doing that in the last year. And it's tough, man. Like, it's very, very tough when you're trying to relate something visually to the audience and you don't have that footage that you need. It's like, man, if I would have just got this shot, or if I would have done just a little more B-roll.
Always happens.
Like, just so many simple things that you wish you could have in that moment. It's like, and then you got to try to like throw something in there that, you know, relates to the viewer. And so you can put them in the same space you're in. It's not easy, man. I feel your pain.
That was something JW and I talked about too, and I'm sure this is like a standard, right? It's supposed to be it's better to have too much than not enough.
Absolutely, yeah. You can't have too much B-roll ever.
No,
exactly.
I've learned that the hard way, and I've done enough of these at this point where I just overshoot the crap out of it. Yeah. So it's a tough thing, man, and unless you do it, you don't really understand it. So at least, Chris, you have a little bit of a perspective of my pain.
Y'all are doing great on Ghost Mob, so
no, let's not bring it up. It's the cause of I'm taking extra heartburn medicine these days.
I can't imagine. So I have a question that I've been curious about. Now, knowing what JW has told you guys, and like knowing what you know now, basically about how the hyper realm is supposed to be, you know, an investigative method, or like a way to investigate on the other side. Do you think that after you guys have done this experiment, do you think that if you were to do it again, or to, you know, have a little bit more time doing it, that you would actually be able to control and investigate on the other side, like he says?
I think so. I think like anything else, it's like the first time you do it, you know, you're kind of, you know, you don't know what to expect. You don't know, and obviously we left that not knowing what to expect. But I think if there's a way to get used to that, which I don't know, there might not be a way. It might be so different every time that ooh, shit's going down at Billy's house. But it might be
his ass whip?
It sounds like it.
It might be so different every time. Like it might be like the first time every time. So, but all you can do is keep trying. I think it's after doing it, I guess 4 times now. It's like it would be one of those things that I'm curious. Number 5 or 6, you know, are you going to have a little bit more control over the situation? Any control at all over the situation? Maybe not. I don't know. Definitely something to try.
In May, I'm going to be doing quite a few hyper realms in May.
You interrupted Chris again.
No, it's all good, bro. I was actually going to make a joke, so you're talking more serious things.
No, I'd rather hear the joke.
I was going to say we should introduce peyote into the equation. Give everybody just a little bit of peyote right before. Let's see what happens.
I'm not going to say any names, but I did have an experiment that I did before that we filmed, and somebody wanted to introduce some psychedelics, and I'm like, I'm not prepared for that shit yet. Let me get some of this under control. You know, I'm trying to send you to Never Neverland, and you're trying to get on a rocket ship. Let me at least figure out what the hell I'm doing before we introduce stuff like that.
I'd be interested to see what those dream journals said after that one.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in participating and being subject to it?
They probably wouldn't even be able to write the dream journals if you did that.
I'll volunteer as tribute.
I can't have them laying there in the damn cot just drooling.
That's why they
No, but we set up a special experiment. And you know, you have said it to me flat out many times in private conversation, JW, and I'm going to reveal it all to the public right now, that there are ways that you could do the math to include that factor into the experiments.
I could.
Whatever the factor may be, whether that's mushrooms or peyote, it is a thing we could do in the future.
But the only thing is it takes a lot of control out of my hands on the protocol side of it. And then I really need some. I'm going to have some, but not better nurses. I don't want to say that, because we had some great EMTs on site. We had some nursing staff, but yeah, we do something like that. I'm going to need somebody with some initials after their name on site.
Do you think that would make the whole thing lose credibility, though? If you
for sure,
like that?
for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Okay,
I think it would depend. I think it would depend.
I would lose all credibility.
I don't know. I disagree. I disagree if it was done under like you said, one, it has to be done under control. Two, if like we were presenting it as like we're going to introduce this factor as a variable into the experiment to see. You know, I think if we were to do it in that kind of an aspect, or like that kind of a, we took that kind of approach to it, then I think it could be more beneficial than not. Because and I know that some people, y'all look at it the way you want to look at it, of course, but there's even like a YouTube channel, and I know JW, you were the one that told me about this, I think, where they actually do all of that, where they actually will like take peyote or take ayahuasca or whatever, go into these locations and try to investigate on that stuff. And I'm not saying that that's something that we should do. Absolutely not.
But if you wanted to add a little bit of credibility to it, you could bring in maybe a Native American shaman or somebody that like
that. Yeah,
what they were doing.
That
when it came to
plus, obviously, I would say that we should bring in a lot more analytical equipment, like not necessarily, because we got the EEG machines, but I feel like we need a lot more to like actually measure certain things. I don't know, like we would need a lot more monitoring on different aspects that
Yes,
like we need more scientific data to corroborate what we couldn't just
There's a lot of experiments that have been done, research that has been done by, government facilities, colleges, universities, private funded ones that have done this. And there is something to be said about it. I don't know that I'm there with my research because I'm still trying to figure my shit out. So give me a fucking minute, and then we'll see where we go from there.
I'm stop yelling at us.
5 years old. I don't know how many.
I know, right?
Got. I only get to do this twice a year. I gotta focus.
Wait, how old are you?
Focus my energy, and I know that a lot of people they like.
He's 68.
Smoke, but
wait, did you say 55 or 65?
He's 68.
I'm bold enough to whip your ass.
Hey, you can do the PG version. You can do the PG version, and if you wanted to try something different, and nobody sleeps for 24 hours before the experiment. So this way, it's not like everybody's well rested.
Well, I like what Chris was saying about like the Native American shamans, because I do. There is something to the fact that these Native American medicine men and shamans, like they actually took these drugs or these plants in order to communicate with the ancestors, the gods. That was something that was almost integral to their culture, to everything. So like they had strong beliefs that was taking them to this ethereal astral plane. And whether we're doing it with frequencies, it's just, we're doing it just in a different way. But I feel like at some point, it might be worth exploring any kind of like, in the future, long future.
Let me be very clear. Let me be very clear. Yes, all of these other ones, I see Chris laughing. All of these other ones, they have done something in their own way, and they have all done these experiments.
Right.
Even though mine resembles some of the stuff that's been done out there between the Gateway Experience and the Monroe Institute and Stanford University and all these other ones, my audio, all of this is original. I'm doing the original thing. I'm going to let them go ride their donkey the way they want to ride it. I'm going to ride my donkey the way I want to ride it. And I'm not going to step on their toes and get into what they're already researching, even though it sounds fun and all. I mean, it sounds like a great Saturday night to me, but
that was like a horrible time to me. But
my research, because anything I get out of it is not going to be something that I can carry forward. If I stick to my original game plan of what I'm doing right now, eventually, if I keep doing this over and over and over again, I start getting results that I can compare. If I change it too much every single time, I'm not getting any valuable data that I can compare to the last time. I can't change it too much. Does that make sense? So it's not even about the credibility. It's about what it is that I'm looking to get out of this mess that I've created.
Yeah, you're talking about, so like 2 years, real quick, 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago, it's like a Friday night, and we're sitting at home. I think I had like 2 beers, and my wife just up and comes and just stuffs something in my mouth. It was a freaking gummy. Never smoke weed, don't do any of that. I was like, what'd you just do? I swear, within 45 minutes, I'm like sitting out in our backyard, and I was like on the phone, and I like fell out of the chair, and I go inside, and I'm like within an hour, I'm like in the corner in our bedroom crying at 8 o'clock. I'm like, put me to bed. I'm like, this is the worst thing ever. Why'd you do that to me? So I can't even imagine.
I do believe that, like, I mean, everything that we're doing, regardless, I mean, what's happening is we're manipulating the mind. And so everything with the conscious, all of that, I think that has...
No. What I am doing with those frequencies is I'm allowing that consciousness where I think the consciousness is. And for any scientist that tells you he knows what consciousness is, he's full of shit. None of us know what consciousness is. I have theories about what the consciousness is, and I believe certain frequencies can free that consciousness up enough that, well, psychic mediums already do it. If you believe a psychic medium, if you believe any of those people that do that, they already have like this natural ability.
They don't need to be manipulated. Right? Their mind doesn't need to be manipulated, right?
No,
because they already have the natural ability.
Anybody's mind either. I'm just trying to free it enough that for a few minutes, like I say in the series, right before you wake up and right before you go to sleep, you get into that 4 to 7 hertz range and your mind kind of syncs together, right? The left brain and the right brain kind of sync. And then that's when you experience stuff, right? People will say, well, I woke up and I seen somebody standing there. Or just before I fell asleep, I saw somebody, I saw something. I try to get you to that point and then hold you there for not a few seconds, but 10 or 15 minutes. I'm not really trying to manipulate. I'm just trying to release potential that's already in our human brain with our consciousness. It's already there. I'm just trying to help you unlock it with frequencies that somehow they've known for thousands of years. I'm experimenting with those frequencies.
So, Jay, here's a question. She says, do you ever use light sensors along with the audio? So, you had the light things in there, and it really didn't play out too much in the series. What was the point of your light sensors that you had in there? Was that just to detect
the
motion?
lasers?
The lasers, was that just to detect motion in case there was something like a spirit or something that hits those?
The theory was, and they ended up irritating the hell out of Chris when one of them kept going off. The theory was, what if somebody, as they leave their body, the photons, whatever's your energy, as it leaves the body, can set off that laser.
Okay, so we never really addressed that in the series.
And we will have lasers again, but they won't, like Chris can attest to, if they go off prematurely, like there was a couple times we knew why they went off. Then there was like 1 or 2 times we don't know why they went off.
During the first experiment, we don't know why, but the second one is when we do know why they were going off.
And also that bird that got stuck in the granary a couple of times and just like caught. Oh, and the 5 million trains that went by too. So
you guys remember Mike had a malfunction with his cot on that last experiment? We had to rig it.
Steve broke that. I mean,
Steve
Scott
broke that.
That shows you right there, Mike's a trooper, because I think I feel like he was very uncomfortable. Because
dude, so yeah, he was out in that experiment. That was experiment 4. Like, there's B-roll of you, and Mike, you had your mouth open. I don't think you were drooling, but you were definitely snoring.
But his feet are hanging over.
Feet were hanging off.
That freaking
he was out.
Yeah, he broke it before I got in. I was like, sat in. I'm like, hey. Thank you, Scott, Steve.
I was wondering why your feet were like that.
We repaired it with part of a tent and some parachute cord because we're prior military vets. So, of course, we got parachute cord. And we repaired it, and Mike is laying in it. He's got his arms spread out. He's got his legs spread out. So if it falls again, he's going to at least catch himself.
I told JW to buy better cots next time.
I ordered more.
We prefer that in our rider. We want top quality cots.
Yep.
Put that in the contract next time.
Yeah. So take out the green M&Ms and better cots.
But so, going back to the overall thing, Jay, now that it's out, 6 episodes, none of which Mike or Chris have even seen, but in your opinion, do you think it was a success? That's a very broad question, but what do you think?
Dude, it could not have been more successful. For me, everybody did what I said I needed to get this. I need to get it on film. I need to show it to the public. We did that. That in and of itself is a success. If 100 people watch it, it was a success. I did what we said we were going to freaking do. We did it. It's a success.
Yeah, I think in this field you have to keep, like I say, I think in the show, you have to keep pushing boundaries. You got to try different things. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and expect new results. So I think what you're doing, and it's like what we used to do in Ghost Asylum. Some of the stuff we did was a little silly, and some of the stuff that we used to do wasn't always our idea. But at least it was, doing it for the first time and trying something new, whether it be silly, whether it be, off the wall, out of the box. I think that's important whenever you're doing anything in this field, because there's no facts. It's all theoretical. It's all theories. It's all trial and error. So, I think what you're doing is revolutionary, man.
Yeah. So obviously, like you said, Chris, nobody knows what goes on the other side until you actually pass away and stuff. So we don't know. So, but I do have a practical question for you, Jay. So, in some of the early interviews, you were like, well, I want to send some of these participants to the other side to actually investigate, to do paranormal investigations on the other side. So explain in theory what your hopes were with that and what that exactly means, that you wanted some of these participants to potentially do a paranormal investigation on the other side. As if it's not enough to travel, but then to try to do an investigation too, Well,
what is an investigation?
Okay.
It's trying to get answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for some kind of resolution, or at least find clues during the investigation to bring you to a resolution, whether it's whether you're investigating a murder scene or you're investigating a car wreck. You got to start somewhere, and you got to systematically go through everything. Well, when we look at investigating in the paranormal, it becomes a little harder to do that. We don't have any concrete evidence or facts that we can find to back up like you would in a car wreck or a murder scene. There's no DNA, there's none of that. So when I say, I want you to go to the other side and investigate, whatever questions you have, you go to the other side with those questions and you see if you can answer a few of those questions. Whatever it is. Let's talk about Nick Groff for a second. He had a specific, now it hasn't aired in the U.S., he had a specific thing he wanted to do during one of my hyperrealm experiments. And he went and he did it, and he did come back with more questions, but he did come back with some really kind of curious answers. What he came back with was not what we were expecting. I can't give anything away because that still hasn't aired yet, and I'm not going to step on Nick's toes here. But what he came back with was not what we were expecting him to come back with. It really wasn't. Nobody would have expected what he said.
Yeah.
So when you ask, when I send you to the other side to investigate, yeah, I don't know what you're going to find. But you go over there with the questions you have and you come back and you just let me know what it was you did find.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, do you remember, I think this was in episode either 3 or 4, maybe 4. It was a second experiment. You had a really good experience. And you were actually going back to like when you were in grade school, maybe 3rd grade and beyond. You said it was kind of like a home movie, and you didn't remember names, but you could see faces of maybe some kids you grew up with and other stuff. Do you remember that? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I mean, I can't picture it now, but I remember that happening. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like I remember it being just like whether you're looking at an old photo album or that old movie, and it's like there's no names, distinct situations, but it's like I do remember, like, what, I mean, that happens in dreams,
of course,
like, I can't find my locker dream, but even way earlier than that, where it's like, why the hell did that pop into my head? I haven't thought about that person in 30 years. Why would they pop in my head now? And it's like, so things like that were happening, but at that where it was a lot. So when I say a photo album, it's like, I remember this. I remember that. Ooh, this time.
And you're remembering names as well.
Yeah, and it was back like in New Jersey, I guess, where you grew up, right?
Yeah.
And I guess, isn't that considered remote viewing versus traveling, right? The definition, correct?
Well, I don't know. See, I think there's more than just remote viewing and traveling.
Okay.
I believe it's a lot more complicated than that.
Look at Kayla's experience.
Yeah. You can't call hers traveling or remote viewing. She actually believes she lived an entire another life.
Hers was called wishful thinking because she had a new husband other than Steve.
Scott.
Oh, no.
And I know they're watching right now,
Sorry,
so
Scott.
sorry, guys, but you're going to be the blunt of a joke for a second.
I think we mistook her name for Carla too, by the way. There's Carla and it's Scott and Carla. I forgot why. Scott and Carla. I don't know, man. Sorry.
But anyways, what were you saying, Jay, about remote viewing? It's hard to differentiate between remote viewing and astral travel. And
yes, and I believe that if my work continues, maybe we can find some more explanations and definitions. I believe it's much more than just remote viewing. I don't think there's only 2 things you can do. Something in regards to maybe time travel. I've seen a lot of similarities between my participants, over the multiple times that I've done this, not just the multiple times this time, but multiple times at multiple locations. And there seems to be something with one of them is being able to speed from one spot to another very quickly. I mean, just boom, 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 like a ping pong ball or pinball, like a pinball machine, except there's nothing in the middle. You're here, and then you're there, and then you're there. And then there's other times that somebody experiences that, but in the middle, they're getting flashes of faces like Kayla did. So there's the definitions are going to come sooner or later if we do this long enough. But I don't think it's just two things that are happening here. I mean, and let's not rule out, just like a psychic medium, I believe that they can, how their brain works is they're taking information that are out of photons from the person they're reading, right? So I'm trying to give a scientific explanation of how a psychic medium could work. Their brain's like a computer. The photons come in. Their brain opens it like an email packet, reads it, and they tell the person, this is what it is. It's almost like mind reading, but you're reading photon packets of email information, and your brain just somehow deciphers them. So some of that could be going on between the participants in one room. Even though they're not a psychic medium, they could be reading packets of information from one of the other participants in the room. See, once you open that can of worms, there's so many possibilities that we have to delve into in order to find descriptions, in order to give it a name.
Yeah. So Jay, I know you had, you know, I don't want to get in details, but I know you had some issues when you did your Conjuring House experiments with like maybe production and some other stuff. How would you compare what we did at the Granary compared to what you did at the Conjuring House? Overall,
a lot of it was the same.
Okay.
It really was. A lot of it was the same, and I'm not going to say anything disparaging or negative or anything like that. But a lot of what happened with the participants at the Conjuring House was very similar to what happened at this one, as well as what happened with Nick and Tessa at Rolling Hills. I'm getting a lot of similarities here that are starting to build up after 10, 15, 20 of these experiments. I'm starting to see all these similarities.
How many experiments did you do at the Conjuring House? Do you remember?
I did 2.
Only 2. Okay.
I did 2 with 6 participants.
And would you go back to the Conjuring House tomorrow? No, I'm just kidding.
No, actually, I did. No, I take that back. I did 2 with 6, and I did another one with 2 with a mirror and some other stuff. So a total of 6 and 6 is 12. 18 different participants at the Conjuring House in that week. So even though I did 3 experiments, there was 18 different results that came in just in that week. Now this one we had what, 24 results?
Yep, it's 24.
Yeah, nobody wants to go to the Conjuring House right now. That'd be a bad idea.
I know, it was a joke.
I wish I could.
I know, I got your joke. That's why I was saying it. That's awesome.
Hey, Jay,
a joke.
He didn't hear me because he was talking.
Yeah, that happens.
Nah.
No, let me give you the one that's cut off. There you go. You get the stubby. Because that's all that you deserve is what little bit of finger I got left on that hand.
Wait, how did that happen?
That's a long story.
Okay, well, I don't want to hear it.
Many years ago.
I don't want to hear it.
Now, what was it you were going to say, Billy?
Oh no, I mean it was just about the I wasn't joking about the Conjuring House. You answered the question like I was going to say, were there any similarities between your last experiment and this experiment?
Yes.
So
there were.
Yeah.
Well, I thought maybe it was like how much better was this production than the last one?
Oh no,
I didn't want to get
I
into
want to
that.
point that out. I do want to point that out though, because there was the whole reason we did this shit in the first place.
I'm not going to.
Even though Austin tried to fight me halfway through this production, I mean,
well, I would like to make a point though that this is the kind of stuff that this is how this should have been done in the first place. The whole situation. I'm not going to get into detail about that, but like the whole situation with that was just it was unnecessary, uncalled for. But I think that when I I had to convince JW to even try to do this again because it was pretty bad going through all that, and so I'm just happy that we were able to actually do it and set out and document it the way that it should have been documented, and I think that obviously this is just a starting point with the various things, but I think that this was a great beginning to actually getting the experiments out there to the public and actually getting it out there in the right way. And obviously, I think that there's always things that we can improve on, and information that in hindsight we look at like, oh man, we should have said that or included that. But I mean, I thought all around everybody did a hell of a job.
You can tell that everybody's passionate about what they're doing, and when you have passion for what you're doing, whether it be Billy when he's filming things, whether it be Jay and Austin when they're doing the experiments for the paranormal side of it, I mean, those passions sometimes collide. And, you have a little bit of a little bit of collision there. So, and that happens with Mike and I when we're doing things, and when you're working with other people who are also passionate, and it just, that's just one of those unfortunate side effects.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, Jay and Austin didn't know me from Adam before we did this. And all I tried to convey to you guys was just trust me, because I mean, I've done a lot of these things, and I know how I know how a production works. Again, I'm a perfectionist. I wish I had 10 people helping me out. I really do, where I could just sit back and just kind of oversee everything. But unfortunately, at this point, I'm not. But I've done it so much, and now that I kind of know, and I can kind of see how a story's going to develop. Like, it's weird because it's like I'm almost editing as I'm shooting stuff, and it's hard for me to explain that to anyone. But I'm getting interviews that I know are going to carry the story, and I'm asking questions in that regard. So, did you, Austin? I'm sorry. Were you at the Conjuring House?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I just, everything that, I know about the situation. I mean, it's really kind of what like even set me off to, convince JW that we need to actually do this and do this the right way to begin with, and I'm not trying to, get into any of that, like with the drama, because I'm not searching out for any of that. But I think that
it's me to do the experiments. He had to convince me to try to turn it into a production.
Yeah.
But I only wanted to do that.
Do these experiments no matter what. I didn't give a shit if anybody else watched them or not. I'm still doing what it is I'm going to do. I mean, y'all know how stubborn I am.
I'll tell you what, though, Jay, I'll tell you what, not to interrupt, but you need to have Brandon on this at some point, because you guys are so alike with your thinking. Brandon is on some of the same wavelengths I think that you're on, that Mike and I could never be on, that I don't think anybody else could ever be on, because you and I and Brandon, I think it was after the first night of filming, we all shared like a night of just having a few drinks and talking about
just the 3 of us.
Yeah, we were just all talking about how this works, and I didn't know what the hell you guys were talking about. But Brandon, he was like computing this, and he was like giving you advice, and you were telling him how things were working, and intermingling with what your thoughts were. I think you should have him on the show one night and just talk about that, because I mean, Brandon, obviously very intelligent, very smart, very on a different wavelength than myself and Mike, and I think he understands what you're doing a little bit more in a mathematical sense and a more scientific sense than Mike.
And honestly, like I was really pushing. I was happy that we got like when Brandon got into the trailer and was able to observe all the brainwaves and everything. Like I thought that was going to be like really good insight. And I wish that we would have done that from like at the beginning too, because I think that Brandon was able to notice trends and patterns between different participants that I wouldn't have been able to notice. He was in the first one and the last one.
He's like a computer.
Yeah.
He's like a computer.
Right.
He's like an
Right.
algorithm. He like sees things that other people don't.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I thought like, man, dude, if we have Brandon monitoring that stuff and we already know about all these different correlations and I don't want to call them coincidences, but like, you know, things that related to each other. And like if we already had all that and then we had Brandon's eyes on those EEGs, I mean, and he noticed several trends that were very significant. I mean, I don't know. He did notice a huge drop in one of the participants that it was kind of almost like a predecessor. I remember it was almost like leading up to when Eric had his negative brain waves. And there was something that he noticed. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I remember it was because that was when he mistook Steve for Scott.
Yeah.
I remember, but like, I agree. I think that Brandon, I think Brandon was behind the scenes with it. Yeah.
Having Brandon in the trailer was great because I'm still running the experiment, and he has this attention for detail. He'll sit there and he'll watch all 6 of those EEGs the entire time. I don't even have to ask him to. He's just
he'll be able to remember it.
And remember.
He's got a photographic memory.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's freeing me up to do what I've got to do because I still manually do, and I say that in one of the episodes. I don't trust my computer to automatically run what I'm doing. I still have about 10 or 12 hand movements that I do during these experiments when we're transitioning with audio and everything. I still control all of that for the participants as well as the environment. So having Brandon there really helped me out a lot because I'm like, okay, I don't have to focus on that because I know Brandon ain't going to miss shit. I can now focus on this part.
Yeah.
I'm an advocate for having Brandon on future ones just to have him there, like literally for the dude. I'm not even kidding because he was so like able, like I was actually like shocked, like damn, dude, he's like noticing like 6 different things at once.
Yeah.
And like then we go to the round table, he's like actually recalling every little detail of it. Who he noticed this person's and this person's dipped at the same time, and it's like, damn, dude, like honestly, I think that his the analytical view that he can bring to that is very valuable.
And
I'm an advocate for him bringing him on future. I'm just saying.
Well, we got one coming up in May.
You guys should bring him on one of these lives and discuss some of that. Because
how's he doing, Chris? Is he doing good?
Oh yeah, he's doing great, man. He doesn't get to go on events like he would like to with us.
Yeah,
because he's got a full-time job. He's got a real job.
I want him to watch all 6 of these episodes, and I just want to know what his honest opinion of everything is.
Yeah, we'll do another live and we'll bring him on.
Well, I also want to see if he's able to notice any other correlations that maybe we have missed.
If anybody,
just because of his level of attention to detail.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, that was just like I think that his level of detail, like the way that he pays attention to it, I actually would be very curious to see if he's able to see any other correlations that JW or Billy or I didn't even notice.
Yeah, because I'll be honest with you, some of this I don't get to see till later. I mean, let's face it, I'm one guy. There's a whole shit ton of moving parts going on, and I'm trying to watch them all at one time. But there's only I'm not the brightest guy in the world, and I'm not the fastest guy in the world, so I can't catch all of it in real time.
Well, I mean, we're even finding correlations like what you said, right? Like yesterday or today, you said you found a correlation with the flag.
Another correlation.
And how many did we have while we were even on site?
I lost track.
I mean, it became ridiculous. Like, it became a joke that it was just so many. And so, like, you know, anybody, like, you two got to watch it too, by the way, and see if you guys can notice any correlations between anything, you know.
There's a lot of correlations. I mean, what is I mean, there's many, but the fact on the episode 6, the hyper realm, where Chris said that he heard babies crying, and then Amy said she heard babies crying, is like, that's like mind blowing to me. And then on top of that, if you watch the episode, I flash back to Austin telling the story of how these, you know, you can't definitively
the infants,
but the infants and the babies were disposed of by the train tracks right by the granary back in the early 1900s, due to abortions and whatnot.
I did notice that. Well, one thing that I did notice that Chris said, even when he was like, when he went and he was hearing those babies, it was in that back room. Now that back room, I mean, is right up against the back side of the granary.
Yeah, I know.
And there's like a little opening there. I didn't even put that together until just now.
I knew that. That's why I put your flashback in there where you told the story of the baby supposedly being thrown away, which is
that's wild
to say. Right there by the train tracks, but the fact that they both heard babies crying in their hyper realm experience.
Now, I can't do anything about my participants Googling the background of where we're going to do our experiment.
You're not going to find that anywhere. You're not going to find that information anywhere. It's not public information. That is something
I don't think you can even Google that. So I do want the viewer, our trusted viewer who's watching our project, I want you to know that we did not share any of this information with participants. The participants, if they shared any information, I'm not aware of it, but we did protocols. So what the viewer is seeing, some of our participants are probably watching it along with you and hearing about it for the first time themselves. We don't sit down and have a giant conference and give the entire background to all our participants. It would defeat our purpose of what we're trying to do with the experiments.
And I would like to kind of address that, the fact that, you know, we did say earlier that Mike and Chris have both been to the granary a few times before, but they were unaware of these articles, these deaths, because at the time that they came, we did not have that information. I did not have that information. I ended up finding that out long after the last time that they were there.
No, that was
so they were even nowhere.
The JW shit just blows my mind.
Well,
did they know about that?
No, but going back to the babies, and then Jay, tell your story. But that to me is one of the biggest correlations and one of the biggest
during the hyper realm.
Yeah, put together, the fact that two different participants heard the same thing, and then you got the history of that happening is very odd. Yeah,
and they both happened during the hyper realm between Amy and Chris.
Yeah,
the JW stuff, because you guys haven't seen the episode, because we didn't put this together till editing. I didn't realize it. No one else realized it, but I seen it one day, and I'm like, that's a whole lot of JWs. So Jack W. Hayden had his leg ripped off.
And died in the basement.
In the granary. The man that went and recovered the body of Miss Hoyt, his name was J.W. whatever, and he was the undertaker that recovered the body of Miss Hoyt. So there's our second JW. Well, we know who the third asshole is. That's me. So I'm like, here I am shooting this doc at a place that I had no idea that there was two previous JWs that were severely intertwined with the history of this building. Now, I know that sounds minor, but when you do this for like 6 days that we were there, and you get all of these things that intertwined, and then you come back 8 months later or 6, 7 months later during editing, and you're still getting these intertwining things, it just makes your brain go, the universe is not as big as we think it is. There's some intertwining things that are connected. And I know it's just a name, but that is, 3 of them, and all 3 connected to something. Well, luckily mine wasn't, life-threatening what I was connected with there, but still I was there.
I would argue that you have been put into life-threatening situations by the universe, just trying to make not just the Granary happen, but the Rolling Hills experiment especially. You were put into a dangerous situation on the highway, JW, remember?
Well, hey, guys, I got like 2 minutes, a couple minutes.
Yeah, we'll
get off, Mike. We don't need you. Get off.
Oh, we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to do that. I'm just saying I gotta help get the little one down to bed and all that stuff.
Oh, I know.
Papa stuff.
I know. I was there. Man, I want to thank you, Mike and Chris. Thank y'all so much, for coming out and taking the chance on me and doing this. I appreciate it.
Oh no, I can't thank you enough for having us. It was an amazing experience. It was a great time, a great weekend of work, and definitely gonna watch it. I'll start tomorrow. I will start with episode 1 tomorrow.
Well, hey man, we got all day Friday to watch it.
Oh yeah, we're in road tripping.
We got a 10-hour drive. We might as well watch all of them on the way.
Yeah, that's a long drive.
There you go.
But
I want to thank you guys for taking the time to come on here too. By the way, I know you guys from your busy schedule. I know, I know that we've been trying for a while.
It was on a Friday or Saturday night when we were out.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys for having enough faith in us to try the experiments, for inviting us on to do it. I'm always game for trying new things. Because like I said, man, you can never stop pushing the boundaries of the paranormal, man. We got to keep furthering the field. We got to try new things, thinking outside of the box. And that's exactly what this experiment has done. And I think it was successful. Like Jay said, I had a great time doing it. I would definitely do it again. I would tell anybody who's a little trepidatious about it, try it, see what happens. Maybe nothing happens, but maybe something happens, and it'll completely change your perspective.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, guys, I just appreciate it because I knew y'all wouldn't bullshit me. You're going to come out, you're going to do it, and you're going to tell me the truth, and you weren't going to worry about hurting my feelings, and that does come through in the series. When you're watching this, you see y'all's guys' hesitance, and you're being truthful, and that's what I wanted. That's why I wanted y'all guys. I knew you wouldn't blow smoke up my ass, and that's why I wanted y'all.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So I just want to say, like, I know especially Austin and JW, I've said this before, but I think you guys should be uber proud of like what you set out to do and what was kind of put together and put in this 6-part series, man. It's like Chris and others said, it's revolutionary. It's different. I wish we could get on a bigger scale and have more eyes on it. But for right now, it's like those who have watched it, I think if they really absorb it and kind of take in what you guys did, I think they really understand that it is definitely something different, definitely something out of the norm from your normal paranormal investigation. And you guys should be, more than proud of what was done and put out there. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So, but yeah, thank you guys. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Austin. We'll jump off here. You guys have a great night. Go check out the series on Scare Network, Travelers, the WorldGate Project. All 6 episodes are streaming now. Yeah, episode 1's for free now. So if anybody's out there watching, go watch episode 1 for free and then watch the rest of them, only $4.99 a month. So thank you guys. Y'all have a great night. Have a great rest of the week. And yeah, let's do this again sometime.
Let's do it.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, guys.
Y'all have a good one.
Thanks.
Have a good night.